Now, in today's video, we're taking a look at a UV laser that's going to transform your business, especially if you're considering either getting into personalization or you already have a personalization business. Check this out. This is glass. This is an engraved cutting board that was done without any special coating, direct laser engraved, and it was done in minutes. We're talking about the Haotian 5-watt UV laser. And at first, when you hear that 5 watt, you may be wondering, says, wow, that is really low. I hear of lasers that are maybe 30, 60, 100 watt. And let's face it, we want something that has big numbers. But you know what? A laser like this, UV lasers, they're typically going to be ranging anywhere from 5, 10 watt lasers. And these lasers are specialty lasers because they're the most versatile lasers on the market. They can engrave on so many more materials than some of the other lasers that are available on the market. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you products like this that also are high margin. You're going to be able to sell this on Etsy, Facebook, any kind of marketplace, direct to consumer, and generate significant profit. And more importantly, when you do your investment, your initial investment in a laser engraver, you're going to be able to pay this off quickly. Now, one of the biggest challenges that you're going to find with laser engraving, period, no matter which laser you get, is finding the settings to get engravings like this. How can you get an engraving quickly without spending days or months trying to figure out the settings? Well, that's one of the things that sets this company apart. Haotian provides you with a material library that gives you all the settings right out of the box. And that to me is a game changer. The other thing that we'll talk about when we go over the specs is that they have local support, which is also something that transforms when you start getting into industrial class lasers like this. So let's take a look at the specs. We'll also go into the features, and you'll see again all the products I've engraved with one laser. This is the most versatile, most flexible, I would say the most robust when it comes to material engraving laser that you can find on the market. Let's get right to it. Now, as we discussed, we're talking about the Haotian 5-watt UV laser, and this is a laser that basically is going to allow you to engrave on a variety of materials. It is air cooled, so it doesn't really require a water chiller. Some of the more larger UV lasers could require a water chiller to keep the actual laser cool. In this case, you don't have to worry about it. It is air cooled. And one of the things that I'll highlight is that this laser operates very quietly. We have it in our engraving area, and it's the quietest laser of the bunch that we have. In its off state, it's almost silent. On its on state, the fans are very, very quiet. It's not something that drives us crazy. Matter of fact, we have the TV going as we're doing work, and we can watch TV as we're doing engraving. Yeah, that's how quiet this thing is. Now, this has also great engraving accuracy. And one of the things that I'm going to show you today is how much detail you're able to get when it comes to the actual engraving. It's super fine, 0.15 millimeters fine. Now, that is going to give you a very precise engraving. I'm going to show you examples of standard lasers and then also this laser. And what UV lasers are also known about or for is having a small dot size. And the smaller the dot, the smaller the actual engraving. Think about as if you were thinking about a pen. You have pens that have large tips and you have pens that have small tips. The smaller the tip, the more definition you're going to get. And that's definitely the case with this laser. Now, also, it has great engraving speeds. We're talking about engraving speeds of up to 5,000 millimeters per second. And so you're going to be able to engrave things relatively fast for the power that you have here. It all depends again on the material that you're going to be engraving. And also, what you have is it comes with one of the many lenses. I have a 150 millimeter lens, and that's going to allow me to engrave a pretty decent sized surface area, which you'll see shortly. Now, we basically have also a 150 millimeter lens that's combined with the frequency gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to material that you're going to be engraving. So you're looking at frequencies anywhere from 20 to 150 kilohertz. And with these type of lasers, you're not really looking at power settings, right? There's different ways that you get engraving marks and you get deeper marks. And we're going to see that in a couple seconds. And there's actually two programs that you would use when you're going to be engraving. One of them is going to be EasyCAD, and that's a free program. The other one is Lightburn, and I would highly, highly recommend that if you're getting into laser engraving, that you use Lightburn. Lightburn, I would say, is the industry standard, and it is from a professional perspective. It is not consumer; it's It's pro. I would put it into the pro space, but it's also very easy to use. So it has consumer-like usability, but the power of a professional laser engraving software package. Now, this is where this type of laser shines. When you get a laser, there are various type of lasers that you can get. You can get a fiber laser. You can get a MOPA laser. You can get a CO2 laser. You can get a UV laser. And we're talking about UV today. The difference between those other lasers is that depending on the laser type you have, you're going to be able to impact certain materials. For example, if you pick up a MOPA laser or a fiber laser, you're not going to be able to do wood. It's just not going to happen. And when it comes to glass, they struggle with it. You're going to have to spray some type of material on there to darken it so that you can actually engrave. When you look at CO2, CO2 is a little bit more flexible, but not only can it do metals, but it also does wood really well. Now, talking about the UV, check it out. It can do gold, silver, copper, aluminum. It could do fabrics, and it does fabric by not burning the fabric, but by removing the tint from the fabric. It could do stainless steel. It could do glass, and it is incredibly good in glass. You saw what I have here, and I'm going to show you some of the other things that we've done. It could do crystal. It could do acrylic. It could do leather, and it can do wood. And it does this without any charring. It's not burning the wood the way this thing works. So it's really, really cool. The other thing it can do, and this is where it excels as well, PLA, plastic, stone, slate, and I didn't know it was a thing, but it is a thing. It could also do foods. And the cool thing about this is that if you engrave foods, you don't have a burn smell. So this is going to give you, again, think about all those different material types. The other lasers, they kind of fit in slots, right? You could do metals if you're doing a MOPA or a fiber. And the difference between a MOPA and a fiber really comes down to also being able to do color. The MOPA allows you to do color on different metals, but it won't be able to do all of the materials that we just listed. The same thing is with the CO2. It's not going to be able to do the same thing, all the materials that we've listed. And that's why the UV lasers are so popular and so flexible, right? Now, the service life of this specific laser is around a little bit more than 10,000 hours of usage. So that's what you're going to be able to get out of it as you're doing your engraving. Now, the laser itself comes with a couple accessories. First of all, it does have a platform where you're engraving, and it has also a lifting platform. So your laser is sitting on a platform that is electric in nature. So it goes up and it goes down based on pressing a button, which I like. So there's no cranking involved here. It also has two red laser dots that basically allow you to do your focus points when you're engraving. And focus is really important when you're engraving. Now, the other thing that it has that is unique that I really haven't seen in a UV laser is that most UV lasers require you to have some form of acrylic paddle to be able to see what you're engraving because the preview, what you're going to engrave, isn't visible. It's not visible to the naked eye. You have to either put a white sheet of paper there or put some type of acrylic that will actually allow you to see it. And you're going to see that in a couple seconds. Some people actually grab a sheet of paper and they put it right on top of what they're going to engrave so they can see where the mark's going to be. But as you can imagine, putting a sheet of paper on something that you're going to engrave will kind of throw you off a little bit. You're not going to be able to know if you're centered or not because you have the paper in the way. So I love the fact that this has a red kind of preview that allows you to see what you're going to engrave and where it's going to be placed on the material. I think that's unique and that's definitely a great feature. Now, it also then has a foot switch, and the foot switch allows you, if you're going to be doing a lot of engraving, repeatable engraving, for you to hit that switch and then you get onto the next project. It does have a rotary, and the rotary is robust, and the rotary is going to allow you to engrave items, all the way around. And it also is going to be able to tilt upwards so that you can use it in a platter mode. So, for example, if you're engraving a lot of pens, a lot of business cards, you'd be able to do it like that. Now, I mentioned, and probably should have mentioned this at the very, very top of this list of features, but I highlighted it in the intro. One of the things that I've seen many people struggle with, and I've seen communities, which I'm part of, constantly asking, you know what, I'm frustrated with my laser. I'm not able to get my laser to work. I spent all this money on it and I can't engrave. And that's because the learning curve when it comes to this type of laser, not the UV laser, but this category of lasers that are more industrial, they're less hobbyist lasers, but they're more business lasers. These type of lasers, in many cases, the providers of these lasers are not giving you a full list of parameters that you need in order to be able to use the laser. In my experience, and we've looked at a lot of lasers and I've reviewed a lot of lasers, many of them will give you a sheet of paper. And that sheet of paper will have, if you want to be able to do metal, put this setting in. If you want to be able to do wood, put this setting in. There's only one company that I know of that has a really strong material library, and we've reviewed them on the channel as well. And they basically are focused on a different class of laser, not this type, right? Because this is more professional. This is for a larger business scale or for someone who's really looking to grow really fast. So this laser itself, in this category, you don't find people providing you with all of the settings. And every group I go to, you see how do you do this? How do you do that? And I see even people give up on the lasers because they don't have the settings. That's not the case with this brand. Haotian will provide you with a material library that basically gives you the ability to engrave right out of the box acrylic, wood, leather, stainless steel. It will do also not glass. And they'll give you also settings for stuff like this. Let me pull this out for a second. So what you see right here, this is clear cast acrylic, right? All these different settings that you're going to be able to use right out of the box, and it's going to shorten your time to revenue, right? Because the more time you spend tinkering, the less time you have making money, right? Let's face it. You want to invest, you want to pay it off, and you want to make money and put that in your pocket. You want to grow your business. They're going to give you the ability to do it. The second thing that I would say that is unique about this company is that they have local support. I was literally able to talk to people during US hours, and that is something that I don't find often. Typically, it's a 24-hour thing. I basically send a message and I wait for the next day, or I'm up really late. You can ask Nilda. I'm up to 12, 12:30 every night because I am talking with folks in China about, different things that I'm working on. In this case, they have local support. They have local US support that will answer the phone, that will work with you on Facebook, also through Facebook chat, various ways that they're going to be able to communicate with you and help you to get through your questions. And I tested that out. I wanted to see what it would be the experience of a consumer just asking for help and seeing how they would be able to help me. And I asked them to help me with a variety of material types. I said, hey, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. And I'm going to show it to you here. And can you help me with these settings? I wanted to see what they would be able to do. And I have to say, they came through every single time. So local support, as well as the actual fact that you have the material library, is key. Now, next I'm going to share with you several products that have high profitability, are fast to create, and require little to no prep. And they're going to help you pay off this laser really fast. Because let's face it, it's a several $1,000s investment, but this is an opportunity to obtain financial freedom because of the high profit margins you're going to get and how easy it is to create things. I look for things that are fast, simple, low prep or no prep, low finish or no finish, so that you can get them out the door. So let's take a look at some of them. First of all, let's take a look at shot glasses. Shot glasses are super popular for a lot of different events. Take a look at this, right? Absolutely gorgeous. And as you take a look at what I did here, there's a couple things. You could engrave this, and I'm going to show you the look where I've actually gone over it with some paint just to make it stand out a little bit more. You don't have to do this, right? Because remember, low finish to no finish. But I just wanted to see what it would look like, and I wanted to give you guys kind of like an option. And by the way, this is something you can charge more for. So as you're looking at what's going on here, notice how white this is. You do get a frosted look to it when you engrave these, as you saw on the cutting board, but I wanted it to pop even more. So I added a little paint. Literally, all I did is wiped it on and wiped it off immediately, and this is what I got. Check this one over here. This here is a copper look. And I took, again, this copper paint, put it on there, wiped it on, wiped it off, and I got this. This incredible, something that you could do on this laser. I'm going to put this aside. Now, something else we did, we just had a holiday party in my home, and I personalized all of the glassware. Now, you're going to think about for a second, well, is he talking about glass? This is, no, I'm talking about plastic. Take a look at this. Let's see if this shows up right there. All right, you see how I have on the bottom of the cup, I have my last name on here, right? Let me go ahead and put it in an angle. There you go. Check it out. So at the very bottom of all these cups, you basically have our last name. And we actually had one that said Santiago 2024 holiday party. And as people were drinking, they basically saw our logo. They're like, wow, they saw our family name on there. And this is also something that you find on Etsy, where people are engraving these and then just using them for parties. This could be birthday, this could be wedding, this could be shower, this could be anniversary. And let's face it, it's not something that's tied to a specific season because these things are happening all the time. And folks like to have these small personal touches. This was done again with the UV laser, and it required, again, no, it didn't burn, it didn't ruin, there was no leaking, and people thought it was really cool. So here's another option for you. Slates. Slates are, again, something that you could do. And I just want to show you again the range of things that you could do on this laser. You could do a slate. The slate you're going to be able to engrave quickly. You're going to get a nice white finish, as you see here. And this is something that's really popular as well. So slates, another thing to play with. You can do leather, right? Again, this is the versatility of this laser. So I have this literally in the jig, just as I engraved it, ran the engrave, and I haven't cleaned them off because I just wanted to show you just a little bit of what it looks like when it comes off. This I could just wipe off with a little, either, let's say, alcohol, or I could also do some vinegar, just wipe it off if I want to, and then it's going to be set to go. I engraved all three of these at the same time, and I really got a nice, beautiful dark engrave. This is also something popular that you can make. Now, the other thing that I did was a candle. Take a look at this. This is beautiful. Love how dark this engraving came out. And then I also love how crispy it is. Now, I'm experimenting, so I want to show you that not everything I do is perfect. And when you do get these machines, you have to learn how the curvature of glass gets impacted. And glass is not going to be uniform, right? So there's a lot of learning that goes to it. Let me show you what I did in the front. So this is a candle, and as we flip this over, you're going to see here that I have our, again, the same crest that you see here, or monogram. I have it here. Now, I ran into some difficulty because the actual curvature was causing some problems. Now, Lightburn has a curvature feature that would allow you to address this. I didn't do that because I was just experimenting, but you could see what I have. I can improve this, I know, and I could get a great engrave, and this could be something that I include as part of a care package and actually generate revenue from it. The personalization that you see up here also, not required, but optional. This generates awareness, especially in a market where candles are oversaturated. There's a lot of people selling candles, so you got to think about how can you stand out? Well, you can stand out by personalizing it. Now, the next thing I'll show you is this. Now, who would have thought? And we're going to go over these numbers. You're going to be surprised at the numbers. When you look at this, you're wondering, what's inside of this? Like, what is that? Well, these are teaspoons. Watch this. So this is a 3D printed case or a box that I have UV laser engraved or marked the actual cover here, and I personalized it. And then inside, I used the laser to actually personalize spoons. So you'll see the spoon right here. You see that little message that it says there. Let's turn it this way. Maybe this will come out a little bit better. Basically, it says, I don't give a sip. This is a teaspoon. Sugar, honey, whatever you're going to do, pour it into your drink. Teaspoons, I didn't even know this was a big deal until I started doing research. There's big money here. I'm seeing these teaspoons cost around 44 cents, and people are selling them for $12 and higher engraved. You heard that right? So this has not just the spoon area engraved. There's two of them in here, but it also has the actual tip of the spoon or the teaspoon also engraved with the person's name, all done with the, again, 5-watt UV laser. I'm going to move this over to the side because we got more to share. And here I wanted to share with you kind of like the differences in the material. Before we go into this one, I want to show you this because you can do metal as well. I'm going to wipe this off because get some fingerprints on it. And you could see this. So this has two finishes. So this is a little charm. Valentine's Day is around the corner. People spend a lot of money on Valentine's Day. Here's a little cat with a little message right here that basically I'm yours and no refunds. This is kind of like a funny one. I'll flip it over to this side. And then here you see I have a black mark. So I had kind of like a white mark or a light mark on this side. And then as I flip it over, you can see I have now a black mark, all done with this 5-watt UV laser. Again, giving you a lot of flexibility, something that you can't do with a lot of lasers. I'm going to put that aside. Acrylic, yes, acrylic. This is something that really popular. The ability to be able to engrave acrylic, and then also these you can use them as night lights. So I think I have a night light here, right? So you can basically put this in here, just like this. Let's make sure we can get it in there. And then when you push the button, it lights up. Let me get a color. I think there it is. So that one is, yeah, that one's showing up really good. Let's double check that. Yeah, that's showing up. So you could see created a night light, same laser. You can't do that with every laser. This one can. So here I have this acrylic, and this looks spectacular as well. I'm going to push this over to the side. Let's talk about more glass, because glass is where it's at, right? Then now you see this cutting board. So this cutting board, we'll flip this around, is pretty cool too. And I'm going to put my hand back here. Let's see how I can make this show up a little bit more. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll bring it up here on camera so you can see it right here. There we go. See that? Now, what we did with this cutting board, we actually engraved the back side of it, because I wanted to be able to cut on the front and not lose the ability to use this, the utility to use this. When you're working with a bamboo cutting board, or you're working with a lot of personalized cutting boards, what you end up doing is you engrave the front, and you really can't use it for cooking unless you do the corner, because stuff will get stuck in the grooves. What I like about this is that I've engraved it on the opposite side, did it reverse, and now I can still use this for cutting vegetables, to do what I want to do. The glass hasn't been compromised, but all the engraving is on the opposite side. So if I bring this over, here is the engraving. You can see I can touch the frosting. Now, one of the things I want to see is what happens if I add some paint to it. Will it pop out even more? That's going to be something I'm going to try a little bit later, but this is something that is super cool. I'm going to go ahead and test that. These, again, great profit margin as well. Now, we talked about the dot size on the laser, and there was one other thing I wanted to show you. I don't know if I have it here, but I did do, here it is. I did a pen. Pens. This took seconds to do, seconds. Here is, you see these are really popular pens. You actually can make this on the laser as well. It's basically two-toned. It has a black surface with a silver finish underneath it. Engraves it, cleans it up really nicely, and you can see how nice and crisp that is. Now, one of the things that I'm still learning about the laser is that the curvature, this laser, especially a 5-watt, when you start getting on the curvatures, it kind of, you defocus very fast. So I'm going to turn this over so you can see this right here. This area right here didn't engrave as good as I'd like it to engrave. I'm still learning, so I'm going to go play with this and see how this works. And guess what? I'll probably pick up the phone or grab my text message and contact the guys that really support the product, so they can give me some tips on how I can improve that, because we have US support, which you don't have with every product. So nice product here. Now, the other thing is, I just wanted to show you the difference between engraving on a standard laser. So this is a blue diode laser that I was engraving and cutting this recipe out of. And I was having a really hard time with this. Basically, as you can see, there's some charring going on here. This was for a relative of mine who had a family member pass away, and they wanted the letters to be more legible, because as it was cutting the wood, it was not legible. And what ended up happening is, as I tried to get it darker, it would burn. And basically, the quality of the letters weren't that good. You can see that right here. But using the UV, look at the difference. There is no scorch marks, right? And then basically look how crispy and clean this looks versus this one. Again, and this, check it out. Check it out. You can see it right here. See that? You'd say, hey, this looks great. But check this one out. Now this one looks awesome. This looks like printed, right? This was a hand printed recipe, and it came out just spectacular using that 5-watt UV. And then it didn't have, again, all the cleanup that I had to have with this one because of the burning. So this became an ornament. This is something that was gifted this Christmas. So as you can see, a lot of different engraving options you have. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about profitability. We're going to talk about how you can turn this into a business opportunity, and then we're going to go check out the laser. Now let's talk about products that you can market, sell online or in person that are going to help you, again, pay off this investment and grow your business. One of the products I wanted to highlight that I just think it's super cool is golf balls. Yeah, I engraved golf balls. Well, I marked golf balls using the UV laser. Check this out. This was done with this UV laser, right? And I am not able to perceive any damage whatsoever outside of the marking to the ball. And to my surprise, as I'm doing research, finding that there's a huge market The three of these, the average cost is about $3.62. They're selling on average, and I'm going on the low side, not on the high side, low side for $10. I found Etsy stores that have sold 100 golf balls a month. That's $1,000 that they have been able to make with selling golf balls in sets of three. Now, the cost of those golf balls was $362 with a net of $638. That gives them a gross margin of 76%. That's great. There's something that's even better. We talked about the cups, right? So the cups that we were talking about, the actual glasses themselves, the shot glasses. Shot glasses are still one of my favorites to make. We're talking about 73 cents average cost, $15 per glass. I found shops that have sold 100 of them, and that's on the conservative side. And that 100 in a month is $1,500 with a cost of $73. You're looking at $1,427 that you have in net, net profit. So now, when you think about what's your gross margin, you're looking at 1,955. That's a spectacular gross margin. So that product I think is a great product. But then the product that threw me for a spin was the spoons. So check out the spoons. Spoons and teaspoons are a thing. I didn't know this. Cost 44 cents, and I'm seeing average sales of $12 on the low end. $12 if you engrave the spoon itself and the handle with the name of the person. And I'll tell you, every single one of these opportunities takes seconds. You're not there for an hour, you're there for seconds. So basically you have 44 cents, you're selling it at $12, right? I found sites on Etsy that have sold, right, 120 spoons in a month. That's 1,400, right? $1,440. The cost to supply the spoons was $52. Now, net was 1,387, which means that they had a gross margin of 1,854%. Guess who's doing spoons? This guy is. Next thing, glass cutting boards. The glass cutting boards did well as well. So I found glass cutting boards. The average cost is $6,024 with sales of per board at $25, which I thought was pretty reasonable, especially with the fact that you have that really nice frosted engraving on the back. I've seen Etsy stores that have sold on average $75 of these in a month, which is going to give you $1,875 in revenue. Now, $468 for the cost, net of $1,407, gross margin of 200%. What can I say? Great opportunities. So these are some opportunities that are going to help you pay off your investments. These are opportunities that are going to transform your business. And I just wanted to share with you these opportunities so you can think about, getting something like this. What does it mean to you and how can it change your business? I literally meet people online or in person who are looking for a side hustle, who are looking for their next, or are looking to change their business. I see people who are changing businesses, going from one type of business to the next, and definitely lasering is the place to be. Now, the Haotian 5-watt ultraviolet laser comes in two main components. One is the tower, which you don't see right here, and then the second component is the work area that you see here. Now, this work area is one of the largest work areas I've seen in a laser, and it really gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to laying out your material, but also as you change your lenses, you don't have to worry about your lens exceeding the work area because you have one that is massive in size. This is actually gargantuan in size when it comes to just the flexibility that you have when it comes to material placement. And then also, one of the things I find unique that I haven't seen in many lasers is the screw placement. The screw placement, the pattern that they have here gives you a lot of flexibility as well to allow you to place your actual jigs or material or tie downs, depending on how you're putting your materials down in any area here that's within the laser focal area. So I love the fact that you have this layout. The other thing that the laser comes with is a foot pedal, and this is a great accessory, especially as you're working in batch and you just want to get from engrave to engrave as you're switching out material. It also has one of the largest, check this out, it has one of the largest rotaries that I've seen in quite some time. This thing, guys, is massive, right? So here's our rotary, and the rotary does have the ability, you'll notice right here, to swivel so that you can have this pointing upwards. And the great thing about that is that if you have it pointing upwards and you have a platter, and I would call it like a platter position, what you'll be able to do is lay pens, business cards, all these type of materials, and it would just rotate just like a record would, and it's going to give you the ability to, again, get those materials in batch recorded really quickly or engraved really quickly. Now, there's a couple things that we're going to be taking a look at. So I'm going to pan up for a second so that you can see what I have here. So the laser is also motorized. So the ability to move up and down, you have this little switch box. The switch box could be mounted here, but I chose to mount it on the side. I didn't want it to get in the way of the actual, what you have here is your ruler right here where you can see where you are, your height for your, again, engraving purposes. So I put it on the side here, and I just put some double-sided tape, but it allows you to move your head up and down really easily. I'm just going to push the button right here so you can see. And it's super quiet. This is really, really quiet. And typically, if I want to defocus something, I'll just tap it twice, 2 times, right? That goes up 2 times if I want to go down. So defocusing is really easy when it comes to this laser. And you can see it has a little guide here that's letting you know kind of like where you are on things, especially if you're working with repeatable materials and you already know where you're going to be, you could go ahead and use that to do it. Now, when you receive your laser, you're going to be receiving, depending on the lenses that you choose, there's going to be some stickers on the side of your head here. And basically, this is letting you know what is your focal height for your laser. Now, your laser does have various ways to determine focal height. So first of all, you have this, and you would literally just take out a ruler, and they do include a ruler, right? Metal ruler like this, and you just place it right here on the side, and you basically align it with the line that you have here to the measurement that they've indicated on the sticker. The other thing you do is you have 2 red dot lasers. You can see those 2 red dot lasers. And when these lasers combine or come together on the bed, and you'll see that in a second, what you basically have is your focus point. You could do that. One of the things that I added to my setup, and it's not part of the laser, is I added this little light, right? This is a 3D printed part that allows me to have a light so that it makes it easier to see as I'm working and not having to have all our lights on at once. So that's a great option, at least for us. But I just wanted to mention that that's not part of the laser. This is something that I added myself. Now, your laser dots can be turned on and off by pressing the button right here on the very top of your laser head. And once you turn it on, you'll see the lights turn on. You press it again and they'll turn off. It's pretty straightforward. You don't have to turn those on if you don't care to. As I mentioned, you could go ahead and use an actual ruler if you wanted to. One of the things that I created, because it's just a little bit easier for me, is I created a focal chain, and the focal chain is magnetic. And the reason why I chose to make this, in addition to some of the other ways that you can measure, either the ruler or the 2 dots, is because sometimes when I'm working with glass, and let's face it, that's what this laser is all about. When you're engraving glass, I find that you have to, first of all, it's hard to see the dots when there's glass because it's reflective or see-through. And then the second thing is sometimes you have to go a little bit further down when you want to engrave glass. It's not the same. So like if you're going to be engraving, let's say, a card like this, and you basically have your focus measurement completed, that measurement, that height, is probably not going to work on the glass. You're probably going to have to go down a little bit further because of the material, because of how glass reacts to laser engraving. So what I like is with my little focal chain, I'm able to have a sense of, where I need to be and how many beads I have to be down. I'll just put it that way in the technical terms of beads. Now, the back of the actual galvo head, what you'll have is cables that are coming out, and you'll notice that they're running down. Well, that's running into the tower that I have underneath this desk, right? And what I like about it is that this is a standing desk. You have enough cable so that you can raise it or lower it. I can have it in a seating position, or I can have it in a standing position, which is where I have right now. So I really love the amount of cable that you have here going on. The other thing that I'll highlight about this laser is that this thing is super quiet. I have other fiber lasers. I have MOPA lasers. I have another UV laser, and I have CO2 lasers. And I'll tell you, those machines, when they're on, they're on. You know they're on. This machine is one of the quietest machines that I've ever experienced, again, as we've been looking at various laser types. So I love how quiet it is, and I also like the fact that it's split, so I can have the tower somewhere else and minimize how much space it's taking up on my desktop. So the laser has these 3 dots that basically help you focus. So all you would do is you would raise or lower the laser until these dots meet. Now, as you're switching lenses, you'll have to adjust your dots.
so that if you have multiple lenses, your focus point is going to be different based on your actual lens itself. That's where I use this little focal chain. So this focal chain, I have two of them, or one per lens, and basically the tip of this chain represents the point where the laser is in focus. And if I'm using a different lens, I just bring in another focal chain, one that is to that length, and now I could go ahead and engrave. Once I'm done with that lens, what I could do is just bring the other one in. And now I'm ready to use this focal point. Once I'm done with it, I just put it to the side and I'm done. So that's kind of like my workflow when it comes to using this laser. Now, one of the things that sets this laser apart, as I mentioned, is the fact that you do have a preview. So I'm going to go ahead and shift down so that you could just focus on the preview right here. And that preview that you're going to see right there gives you the ability to see what's about to engrave. So I'm going to go ahead and do a frame, and you see that preview. I don't really find many UV lasers that have a preview like this. So this is the red preview that is showing you what's going to be engraved in this area. Now, there's also a UV preview that's taking place, but we can't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this right here so you can notice that with the shield, I can see that there is also a UV preview taking place. So if you didn't have the red preview, you would need a shield 100% of the time because you wouldn't be able to see it without it. The cool thing about this laser, because it has that red preview, you don't really need a shield. You don't have to worry about not being able to see it. You can. And that's, again, one of the benefits of using this laser. Now, the tower itself is pretty straightforward. So you can see it right here. It has all the cable connections in the back. And we'll take a peek at that in a couple seconds. In the front, it's going to give you, again, some great information about the current state of your laser. It does have an emergency on and off button, that red one right there. And I've actually been using that as my on and off switch. It doesn't have a front-facing on and off switch. And if you want to be able to turn it on and off without using that red button, you have to flip the switch in the back. So what I've been doing is using this as my power button. So literally all I do is come here, I press this in, it's off, and then when I want to turn it on, as you see right here, we'll get a little bit closer, you're going to see that there is a dial that you would push or turn. So you turn it this way, and when you turn it that way, it basically turns on. So this is what I've been doing to kind of use it and not have to go to the back. It's pretty convenient, and I really like that setup. Now, in the back of the laser, you have some options here. You basically have the ability to connect for your USB. You'll notice here you have your put pedal, and then over here you have your rotary. Down here you'll see that you have some additional connections that are taken up right now by the laser and are used to be able to power it and allow you to operate it. And then over here you'll notice also you have the actual main connectivity that goes to the actual laser itself. Now I'm going to run through a couple different pieces of material, and I just wanted to highlight how as it's engraving this wood, you don't see any flame up, and you also don't see any charring coming through. Now, there's smoke, obviously, because it is causing some form of burn and removing material, but it's very, very clean burn. And this really saves us time because the material gets removed, it's crisp, it's sharp, and I don't have to wipe off this material. It doesn't have that burnt smell that I typically would have when I'm using a different laser. And as you can see here, everything is coming out really, really nice and crispy. Now the next material you'll see us engraving here is slate, and it does a really nice job with the slate as well. So I have my jig in place, everything's been aligned, and we're really shooting for a as white as possible slate mark. And I'm really, really happy with the overall finish here. This slate will come out nice and clean, and we actually use these slates in for our clients that are realtors as care packages. And you can see how crispy and clean this engraving is going on. Again, a very different material going from wood now to slate. All right, next up is metal, right? So here what you see is that little charm that is a cat charm that we're engraving or putting in a black mark. So this is going to be a black mark. And the one thing about UV is that it's not going to cut in deeply like you'd find with the MOPA laser or a standard fiber laser, but it is going to give you a really nice clean mark. And you can see here how crisp the details coming across. And that's really what the story is when it comes to UV lasers, is because the dot is so small, you're really getting very, very fine details, clean engravings or markings on the material that you are working with. And once again, here we're doing metal. Now we're taking a look at marking PLA. So this is the spoon box that's made out of just standard black PLA. And I'm giving it a personalized touch by engraving or marking the name of the recipient on this box. And this is pretty sharp. Check out the quality here. We'll make sure we get this in focus so you guys can see that really good. There it is. And that pops. That just took seconds to make, just seconds. And we got the spoon inside. Pretty awesome. All right, now next is glass, and you're seeing the last part of the engraving that we just did for the cutting board. And I placed a metal sheet underneath it just so that I didn't mark up the actual bed. I'm kind of special that way. I just don't like things marked up. So I put this on the bottom of it, and it's not going to impair and it's not going to improve. It's just there to protect the bed. But you could see how quickly it's engraving our last name on the cutting board. And as I mentioned, we did this on the reverse side so that we could get that cutting board to be crispy and clean on the cutting side and still get the engraved to show and pop through. This came out really nice too. Now the next thing we're going to do is engrave the pen. So we're framing it first. That's the benefit of this laser, so you can see where it's going to engrave. And guys, this is real time. Check out how fast this is engraving. Now, there's some things that I'll have to do some tweaking so that I can get that .com to pop up a little bit more because I wasn't really too crazy about it, but you can see that it's coming out pretty clean. But I love how crispy this text is, and that was real time. That was fast, and that was spectacular. And check it out. We're going to get it in focus so that we can get that there. Look how clean that top line was. Now the next thing we're going to engrave is this plastic cup. So I have this green shield on top of it just so I can show you how that UV preview also is present. But I'm focusing right now on the red preview that is visible with the human eye. So here you can see how everything aligns really nicely. I'm going to go ahead and hit engrave. And you're going to see how fast this thing engraves because this thing is like super fast, especially for this type of material. And what I find amazing is that once again, you're not damaging the cup to the point where it's leaking, but you're marking it with whatever message you want to have. And this is something that's legit. I've seen on Etsy people purchasing, ordering, these type of products, and you can see how fast that was.
So guys, that wraps up our review. See you in the next video.